Queen Zalara of Vortix, A Journey of Cosmic Courage and Leadership. Part 1. The Fall of Peace. Chapter 1. The Dominion of Zitrion. The stars above Zitrion shimmered with ancient calm. For nearly 1,000 years, no enemy fleet had darkened its skies. No planetary shields had been raised in desperation. No desperate call for war had echoed across the Dominion's great communication networks. Peace had become so natural that many citizens believed it was permanent. Princess Zalara knew better. She stood alone on the balcony of the Celestial Spire, the tallest tower in the capital city of Asterix. From here, the entire world of Zitrion unfolded beneath her. Oceans glowing with bioluminescent tides, vast crystalline cities rising like sculptures of light, and orbital rings circling the planet like silver halos. Beyond the rings lay the endless sea of stars. The Vortix galaxy stretched for millions of light years in every direction, a civilization of civilizations. Thousands of inhabited worlds bound together by ancient treaties, trade routes, and the stabilizing influence of the Dominion. Zitrion was its heart. Some called it the oldest throne in the galaxy. Others called it the most fragile. Zalara rested her hands on the smooth railing of the balcony, her eyes fixed on the distant constellations. She had studied them all, every star system, every border, every territory beyond the Dominion's influence, and every threat. Footsteps approached behind her, soft, familiar. "You're thinking again," a voice said. Zalara smiled without turning. "I'm always thinking." Princess Selena stepped onto the balcony beside her. Where Zalara carried quiet intensity, Selena radiated warmth. Her presence had a way of easing tension in a room before a word was spoken. Even the palace guards seemed to stand straighter when she passed. Selena leaned against the railing and looked out over the stars. "You've been studying war maps again," she said. Zalara finally turned toward her sister. "You sound like Mother." Selena laughed softly. Mother was rarely wrong. Mother believed peace would last forever. And you don't. Zalara shook her head. No civilization stays peaceful forever. Selena watched her carefully. "You're worried about the outer sectors." Zalara did not answer immediately. Instead, she raised her hand and pointed toward a faint cluster of stars barely visible beyond the Dominion's official border. "The Vorgan frontier," she said quietly. Selena's expression changed. Even here, in the heart of the Dominion, the name carried weight. The Vorgan Empire existed far beyond Zatrion's influence, a rising power built on conquest and expansion. For decades, they had remained distant, too distant to threaten the inner systems. But Zalara had studied their movements, their fleets, their strategy, and their silence. "They've been expanding," Zalara said. 3 star systems in the last 6 years. Selena shrugged gently. "Empires grow. That doesn't mean they want war. It means they understand power." Selena looked back toward the stars. "You see enemies everywhere." "No," Zalara replied. "I see patterns." The wind shifted across the balcony, carrying the faint hum of the city below. Far beneath them, Asterix pulsed with life. Millions of beings from dozens of species lived and worked across the capital, their cultures blending into a civilization older than most known star systems. Markets floated in orbital plazas. Universities studied technologies older than recorded history. Diplomats from distant galaxies debated philosophy and trade agreements. The Dominion of Zitrion had become the closest thing the galaxy possessed to unity. And unity always created envy. Selena straightened. "You spend too much time worrying about distant threats," she said. "And you spend too little." Selena smiled. "That's why we work well together." For a moment they stood in silence. 2 sisters, 2 heirs to the same throne, but very different minds. Selena believed in the strength of people. Zalara believed in the necessity of preparation. "Come," Selena said suddenly. "Father's council begins soon." Zalara sighed. "The council meetings are ceremonial. Not today." Zalara frowned. What do you mean? Selena hesitated. An envoy arrived this morning. From where? The outer systems. Zalara turned fully toward her sister now. Which ones? Selena held her gaze. Frontier observers. Zalara's mind began calculating instantly. Frontier observers rarely traveled to the capital unless something had gone wrong. Very wrong. What did they report? Zalara asked. They insisted on speaking directly to Father. Zalara felt the first chill of unease settle in her chest. That meant classified intelligence. Military intelligence. Something serious enough to bypass normal channels. Did they say anything else? She asked. Selena nodded slowly. They said the stars beyond the frontier have gone silent. Zalara stared at her. Silent. In a galaxy filled with communication networks and constant traffic, silence was never natural. Silence meant disruption. Or destruction. How many systems? Zalara asked quietly. Selena shook her head. They didn't say. For the first time in years, the calm skyline of Zitrion felt fragile. The great towers of Asterix shimmered in the sunlight, but Zalara suddenly imagined them dark, burning, gone. Selena placed a hand gently on her shoulder. You see, she said softly. This is why you shouldn't always assume the worst. Zalara looked at her sister. Why? Because sometimes, Selena said, smiling again. The worst hasn't happened yet. A deep horn sounded across the palace complex. The signal for the Royal Council. Selena turned toward the doorway. Come on, she said. Let's go hear the news that has you so worried. They began walking through the long crystal corridor leading into the palace interior. Sunlight streamed through the transparent walls, scattering across the floor like fragments of distant galaxies. Servants bowed as they passed. Guards stood in silent formation. The entire structure of the Dominion existed to protect what waited inside the council chamber. Power, responsibility, history. Zalara slowed as they approached the great doors. For reasons she could not fully explain, a feeling settled over her. An instinct deeper than logic. The quiet certainty that something had changed. The galaxy felt different. Selena noticed her hesitation. What is it? Zalara looked at the doors. They're already here. Who? The observers. Selena frowned. How do you know? Zalara placed her hand against the cold surface of the door. I can feel it. What? The fear. Selena studied her sister. Then she pushed the council chamber doors open. Inside, dozens of advisors stood gathered around the circular star map projection dominating the center of the chamber. The holographic display showed the vortix galaxy. Thousands of stars. Trade routes. Political boundaries. And 3 enormous red zones spreading slowly outward from the Vorgan frontier. Systems that had once belonged to living civilizations, now marked as lost. Emperor Vorath had begun his conquest, and the war for the galaxy had already started. Chapter 2. Princess of the Stars. The war map hovered above the circular table like a living galaxy. Thousands of stars glowed in delicate threads of light. Trade routes pulsed in silver lines. Defensive fleets were represented by small blue markers drifting slowly through the void. And along the outer edge of the Dominion of Zitrion, 3 red zones expanded like spreading wounds. Princess Zalara studied them without blinking. The Royal Council chamber was silent except for the low hum of the holographic projection. Advisors, generals, diplomats, and scholars stood around the chamber's perimeter, watching the map with unease. At the center of the room stood Zalara. She had not been invited to speak, but she had stepped forward anyway. Those projections are wrong, she said calmly. A few heads turned. The Dominion's supreme strategist, Lord Meriden, frowned from across the table. Wrong? He repeated. Zalara gestured toward the holographic display. The predicted expansion rate of the Vorgan fleets assumes traditional conquest patterns. Meriden folded his hands. And what would you suggest, Princess? The word princess was delivered with a faint edge. Not disrespectful, but dismissive. Zalara had heard that tone all her life. She stepped closer to the map. "With respect, Lord Meriden," she said, "the Vorgans do not follow traditional conquest patterns." The room grew quieter. She reached into the projection and adjusted several glowing markers. The map shifted. Trade routes dimmed. New vectors appeared. Sharp lines cutting through seemingly empty sectors of space. Several advisors leaned forward. Meriden's frown deepened. "Explain," he said. Zalara spoke without hesitation. "The Dominion assumes the Vorgan Empire is expanding for territory." She paused. "They are not." She tapped 3 star systems along the frontier. These worlds were not strategically valuable. They contain no major resources, no trade hubs, no military bases. Meriden nodded. "That is correct. So why take them?" The room remained silent. Zalara expanded the map further. Another layer of data appeared. Ancient star maps, archaeological surveys, deep space anomaly records. The advisors exchanged confused looks. Selena, standing near the chamber wall, smiled faintly. She had seen this before. Zalara turned to the council. "These 3 systems share one characteristic." She highlighted several points on the map. "Ancient ruins," murmurs rippled across the chamber. "Ruins?" one diplomat asked. "Artifacts from a civilization older than any currently known," Zalara said. "The same civilization responsible for the scattered cosmic technologies discovered throughout the Vortix galaxy." The name passed through the room like a quiet echo. "The architects," someone whispered. Meriden's voice grew cautious. "That is speculation." "No," Zalara replied. "It is pattern recognition." She moved her hand again, expanding the holographic projection. Now dozens of star systems appeared, locations of known architect ruins. Then she overlaid the Vorgan expansion path. A perfect line. The room fell completely silent. "They're not conquering randomly," Zalara said. "They are following a trail." Meriden stared at the map. His skepticism slowly dissolved. "What kind of trail?" he asked quietly. Zalara hesitated. The answer had troubled her for months. "The kind that leads somewhere." The council chamber doors opened suddenly. All heads turned. Emperor Alrin of Zitrion entered the room. Tall, composed, and radiating quiet authority, he carried the weight of centuries of royal lineage with effortless calm. Behind him walked the High Minister and 2 military commanders. The Emperor stopped beside the holographic map. "What are we looking at?" he asked. Meriden gestured toward Zalara. "Your daughter believes the Vorgan expansion follows an ancient route of architect sites." The Emperor raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?" Zalara met his gaze. "Yes. And why would the Vorgans care about ancient ruins? Because they are searching for something." The Emperor studied the map carefully. Then he looked back at her. "And what might that be?" Zalara inhaled slowly. "We don't know yet. But whatever it is," she pointed toward the red zones expanding across the frontier. "They are willing to destroy entire civilizations to find it." A murmur swept the council. Selena watched the reactions carefully. Some advisors looked impressed. Others looked deeply uncomfortable. Lord Meriden cleared his throat. "This theory is interesting," he said carefully. "But it assumes the Vorgan Empire possesses knowledge about architect technology that even we do not fully understand." Zalara nodded. "Yes. And you believe that?" "Yes." Meriden crossed his arms. "And what makes you so certain?" Zalara reached into the holographic map once more. Another layer of data appeared. Deep space transmission records. 3 months ago, she said, our long-range observatories detected a signal originating from the ruins on Talris 4. The council leaned forward. "Talris 4 is uninhabited," Meriden said. "Correct. So who sent the signal?" Zalara turned the display. A fragment of alien code scrolled across the projection. The characters were jagged and unfamiliar, but the signal source was unmistakable. Vorgan military encryption. They activated something, Zalara said quietly. And they don't yet understand what it is. The Emperor's gaze hardened. And you believe they're searching for more? Zalara nodded. Yes. The Emperor folded his hands behind his back. How long have you been studying this? 7 months. Without informing the council? I wanted confirmation first. Meriden looked irritated. You are not a military analyst, Princess. No, Zalara replied calmly. I am a student of cosmic history, and sometimes history tells us things strategy cannot. The Emperor watched her carefully. Around the chamber, whispers began. Some advisors exchanged worried glances. Others studied Zalara with new respect. One elderly diplomat leaned toward another and murmured quietly. She sees patterns too quickly. Another replied just as softly. That kind of mind is dangerous. Selena heard them. She stepped forward. My sister is the most brilliant strategist in the Dominion, Meriden sighed. That is precisely what concerns some of us. Zalara looked at him. Why? Meriden met her gaze directly. Because people who see too far ahead often reshape the future, he gestured toward the map. And the future you are describing leads directly to war. Zalara did not look away. Yes, the Emperor stepped closer to the holographic display. He stared at the red zones spreading across the frontier. Then he spoke quietly. Prepare a full intelligence analysis. Meriden nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. The Emperor turned to Zalara. You will assist the council with your research. Several advisors stiffened. Zalara bowed slightly. Of course. The Emperor studied her for a moment longer. You have always seen the stars differently than the rest of us. Zalara said nothing. The Emperor turned back toward the chamber doors. As he walked away, he spoke one final sentence. If your theory is correct, Princess, he paused. The Dominion may soon need more than peace to survive. The doors closed behind him. The council chamber fell into uneasy silence. Zalara looked back at the map. The red zones continued expanding slowly across the galaxy. Somewhere out there, an empire was hunting ancient power, and the Dominion of Zitrion had just realized it might already be too late. Chapter 3. A Sister's Sacrifice. The stars above Zitrion burned, not with the calm silver glow that had defined the Dominion for centuries, but with the violent red streaks of war. Hundreds of streaking objects tore through the upper atmosphere, burning debris from destroyed orbital defenses. Explosions rippled across the defensive ring surrounding the planet, each burst lighting the darkness like brief artificial suns. Princess Zalara stood in the command hall of the Celestial Spire and watched the sky fall. The chamber had been transformed into a war room. Tactical projections covered the walls, showing fleet formations, shield integrity levels, and desperate defensive maneuvers unfolding across near orbit. Blue icons represented the Dominion's fleets. Red icons marked the advancing enemy. There were too many red icons. Admiral Kaylor's voice cut through the tension. Fourth defensive grid has collapsed, he announced. The projection shifted as several blue markers disappeared. Enemy cruisers have breached the northern orbital corridor. Zalara's jaw tightened. How long until they reach the planetary shield perimeter? Kaylor glanced at the tactical data. 4 minutes. 4 minutes. For centuries, Zitrion had stood as the unchallenged center of galactic stability. No fleet had ever successfully reached its planetary defense grid. Until now. The doors behind Zalara burst open. Princess Selena entered the command chamber wearing combat armor. Her hair was tied back tightly, her expression calm despite the chaos unfolding around them. Zalara turned. You should be in the evacuation corridor. Selena ignored the order. Evacuations are underway, she said. But that won't matter if the orbital shields collapse. Zalara gestured toward the tactical map. We're holding the primary defense line. For now. Selena stepped closer to the projection. Her eyes moved quickly across the data. Where is the Vorgan flagship? Kaylor answered immediately. Unknown. Selena frowned. They wouldn't lead a planetary assault without a command vessel nearby. Another explosion shook the station. The lights flickered briefly before stabilizing again. An officer at one of the tactical consoles shouted, "Multiple enemy carriers emerging from hyperspace." The projection expanded automatically. More red markers appeared. Dozens of them. The room went silent. Kaylor spoke carefully. "That's not a strike force." Zalara stared at the map. "That's an invasion." For the first time in centuries, the Dominion of Zitrion was under full-scale assault. Selena turned toward the panoramic window overlooking the sky. Flashes of light streaked across the upper atmosphere as fleets clashed above the planet. Vorgan warships descended like metallic predators through the burning remains of orbital defenses. "How many ships?" Selena asked quietly. Kaylor checked the readings. 300 confirmed. Zalara whispered the calculation. "They brought an armada." Another officer turned from his station. "Your Highness, enemy weapons are targeting the planetary shield generator." The room froze. The shield generator was located within the orbital ring surrounding Zitrion. If it fell, the planet would be completely exposed. Kaylor spoke grimly. "If the shield generator goes down, the cities will have no protection." Zalara's mind raced through possibilities. Every scenario ended the same way. Planetary devastation. Selena stepped forward. "There may still be a way to stop them." Zalara turned. "What are you thinking?" Selena pointed toward the tactical map. The Vorgan fleet had formed a wide attack formation around the orbital ring, but one section of the ring still held. The central energy core. "The shield generator is powered through the orbital energy nexus," Selena said. Zalara understood immediately. "If we overload the nexus, the resulting surge would reinforce the planetary shields." Kaylor shook his head. "That kind of overload would destroy the entire orbital grid." "Yes," Selena said. "And take half the Vorgan fleet with it." The room fell silent. Zalara stared at her sister. "That's suicide." Selena met her gaze. "It's the only way to stop them from reaching the surface." Zalara shook her head. "There must be another option." "There isn't." Selena stepped closer. "The energy nexus can only be manually triggered." Zalara's voice hardened. "No." Selena's expression softened. "Zalara, no." The word echoed across the chamber. "You are not flying into that station. If the shield falls, billions will die." "I will not lose you too." Selena placed a hand on Zalara's shoulder. "You won't lose me." But even as she said it, both of them knew it was a lie. Kaylor spoke carefully. "The overload would create a defensive energy wave strong enough to disable most of the Vorgan fleet." He hesitated. "But whoever triggers it would be inside the blast radius." Selena turned toward the exit. "I'll take a strike shuttle." Zalara grabbed her arm. "No." Selena looked at her sister. The command hall faded into the background for a moment. For an instant, they were no longer princesses of a galactic empire. They were simply sisters. "I've always been the stronger fighter," Selena said gently. "And you've always been the better leader." Zalara's voice broke. "We can find another way." Selena shook her head. "You know we can't." Outside the window, another massive explosion ripped through the orbital defenses. A section of the ring collapsed in flames. The tactical console alarm sounded again. "Enemy fleet approaching shield generator." Time had run out. Selena leaned forward and embraced her sister. For a moment, Zalara could not move. Then she held her tightly. "I'm proud of you," Selena whispered. Zalara shook her head. "No, you will lead them," Selena said softly. "You will protect this galaxy." Selena pulled away before Zalara could respond. She turned toward the door. "Prepare a shuttle," she told Kaylor. The Admiral hesitated. Then he nodded slowly. "Yes, Your Highness." Selena walked out of the command hall without looking back. Zalara stood frozen. Moments later, the tactical display showed a single shuttle leaving the celestial spire. It streaked toward the damaged orbital ring. The Vorgan fleet closed in around it like wolves. Kaylor spoke quietly. "She's almost there." Zalara watched the tiny blue marker representing Selena's shuttle. Enemy ships fired. The shuttle dodged through the chaos of debris and explosions. "She's entering the energy nexus," Kaylor said. Zalara whispered, "Selena." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the star map exploded with light. A blinding wave of energy erupted from the orbital ring. The shockwave expanded outward across space. Vorgan warships were caught in the blast and torn apart instantly. The remaining vessels were hurled away from the planet like broken fragments. Across the tactical map, red markers vanished. The planetary shield surged to full strength. Cytrion was safe, but the blue marker representing Selena's shuttle disappeared. Zalara stared at the empty space on the map. No one spoke. Outside the window, the stars slowly returned to calm. The Vorgan fleet had retreated. The Dominion had survived. But Zalara felt something inside her collapse. Selena had saved the kingdom, and in doing so, she had left Zalara alone to lead it. The command hall remained silent. Finally, Kaylor spoke. "The planet is secure." Zalara did not answer. Her gaze remained fixed on the empty sky. Something had changed inside her. Something irreversible. The girl who had once studied star maps and diplomacy was gone. War had taken her sister. Now war would take the rest of her life. And somewhere beyond the burning edge of the galaxy, the Vorgan Empire was already preparing its next move.